Just months before this health crisis hit Kentucky, the new Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, took office after a historic win as the first Republican in decades to hold that office and the first African American to be independently elected. Now, despite a near shutdown in the court system, the AG has been very busy during this pandemic. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron joining us now from Frankfort to talk a little bit about the cases he's currently working on. AG Cameron, let's start first with the investigation into the meatpacking industry. Kentucky is the largest beef producing state east of the Mississippi, and ranchers are reporting lower than average prices for their cattle, while prices at the grocery store are higher than they've been in years. You say that could be the result of anti-competitive practices by meatpacking companies. Can you explain a little bit more what you think the issue is and what you're doing to combat it?
Yeah, well, look, Jessica, thanks for having me on. Just last week, Commissioner Ryan Quarles and myself sent a letter to the Department of Justice and our Attorney General, Bill Barr there, asking for an investigation into anti-competitive practices that might be utilized or being undertaken by meat packers across the nation. As you know, we've got cattle producers here in the Commonwealth who are seeing the pay that they receive lowered, but yet consumers are seeing higher prices at the grocery stores. There's something wrong with that equation. And so we have asked the Department of Justice to investigate meat packers on behalf of our consumers and our great cattle producers who continue to do everything they possibly can on their cattle farms to keep our folks fed here in the Commonwealth and across the country. So this is an important issue to Kentuckians, and why myself and Commissioner Quarles thought it was so important that we bring this to the attention of the Department of Justice. And what I have offered is that our office stands ready to assist in any investigation that might occur here in the near term. And so I look forward to having that conversation with the Department of Justice and working with Ryan Quarles, our commissioner, to confront this issue on behalf of our consumers and cattle producers.
And another big issue that you're heavily involved with, churches suing Governor Beshear over his ban on services during this pandemic. You now have joined that lawsuit. Now, I do want to mention, under Governor Beshear's plan, places of worship were allowed to open starting this Wednesday. How do you balance the need to stop the spread of the coronavirus with the right to worship? We've seen the deadly impact gathering for worship can have on a community right here firsthand in Hopkins County.
Well, look, I appreciate that question, and I sympathize with the decision that all of our elected leaders, from President Trump to governor here in Kentucky, and our mayors and our county judge executives, and really all of our leaders across the Commonwealth who are trying to work with our public health officials to make decisions. And so you're right, there has to be a balancing. But just as our Attorney General for the United States, Bill Barr, said recently, even in the midst of a crisis, the Constitution is not suspended. And so just as much as we have to pay attention to the health and safety concerns, we also have to balance that with our constitutional rights here in the United States. And so as the Attorney General, I am in the position of having to vigorously defend our Constitution and the rights that our people are guaranteed here in the Commonwealth. That's why we decided to get involved on this ban that the governor had issued as it relates to faith-based gatherings, telling people that they couldn't go to church. I was proud to have joined in lawsuits challenging the constitutionality of that particular ban, and was validated and affirmed by the decisions of two federal district court judges, and one, I'll note, was appointed by President Obama, and the other one appointed by President George W. Bush. Both of those two judges said that the order banning in-person church services or faith-based gatherings was unconstitutional. Those decisions were affirmed by a Court of Appeals panel. Again, validation that the Constitution must be respected even in the midst of a pandemic, and we see that even the governor had to recognize that his order was unconstitutional because he rescinded that order. What I've always said in this office, and I think that the governor, after having rescinded his order, recognizes as well, is that CDC guidelines still apply. But what I was advocating for is that churches and parishioners be able to be given the same opportunity that we've seen big box stores have over the course of this pandemic. We wanted churches that are protected by the First Amendment to have that exact same right. I'm now glad that we're all on the same page as it relates to the right that is guaranteed within our First Amendment. Was honored to be able to help lead the charge in protecting our First Amendment and our constitutional rights as it relates to in-person church services.
Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this evening.
My pleasure. Thank you.